For the first time since the Nazi era, Germany has a permanent military presence in Lithuania. This is a live fire exercise a few miles from the border with Belarus. They are wargaming a Russian invasion from the east. This is the North European Great Plain. From the Baltic Sea in the west to the walls of the Kremlin in the east, there are very few natural defensive barriers, no great mountain ranges or deep river valleys. It is extremely vulnerable to invasion. The commander of German troops here says defending this territory is urgent.
I guess that we are fulfilling what our neighbors and allies expect from us. So our chancellor announced that we are building up the most powerful conventional army in Europe. And I guess this fits with the role of Germany due to our economic strength and also to our role in Europe. And we are not doing this alone, obviously. We are doing this in NATO and in the European Union.
For generations, Germany's neighbours had good reason to fear German militarism, but nothing illustrates Germany's transformation in Europe more graphically than all this. German troops are back on foreign soil in Europe, this time not as invaders and occupiers, but as valued allies in the defence of the eastern flank of democratic Europe. And this is the man who is leading the rapid expansion of German military might. General Carsten Breuer, head of the country's armed forces, believes Russia will be strong enough to attack NATO territory by 2029. Germany needs to be, as he puts it, war ready.
I've never experienced a situation which is that dangerous, that urgent, like it is today. So what we are seeing, what we are facing is a threat from Russia, and we can clearly see that Russia is building up their military to a strength which is nearly doubling in size from what they had before the war against Ukraine. In 2029 there's a possibility for Russia to conduct a major war against a NATO country. And I as a military have to say, okay, we have to be prepared for this.
Twice in the 20th century, German militarism inflicted ruin on Europe. When Nazi Germany surrendered, the Allied leaders Winston Churchill, Joseph Stalin and Harry Truman met at Potsdam in 1945. There, they agreed that Germany should, in future, be demilitarized. For decades, Germany was content to rely on the United States to guarantee its security. Not anymore. With war in Ukraine and Donald Trump's White House seen by many in Germany as an increasingly unreliable ally, public opinion has shifted decisively in favor of rearmament. Germany's attitude to its armed forces is transformed. It is no longer content to let others take care of its defense. In 2025, the German parliament changed the country's constitution to allow the state to borrow huge sums to fund rearmament. In that change, Germany overturned its traditionally cautious attitude to debt. It's sometimes hard for people outside Germany to understand how big a psychological step that was for the Germans, because Germans are uniquely neurotic about debt and borrowing and committed to the idea of fiscal discipline. Psychologically, how big a leap was it for the country to relax those borrowing restrictions?
Well, your question is a perfect description of how Germans are looking at this and how Germans are feeling on this. But it was also clear that this, you called it, or we can call it a wake-up call, which came there, that we were not able and also not willing to put once again to push the snooze button on this wake-up call. So this understanding has really led to this perception has led to a different understanding. A huge step for Germany, is a huge step for the German population, definitely.
I would say that it's been a cultural revolution. We have had an enormous mindset change, budget change, a change in the way that Germany approaches its partners, the way that it sees itself as a founding pillar of European defense and security. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has really changed the way that Germany approaches defense from an alliance obligation, defense out of solidarity to its partners, to a interest-based defense policy, really looking at what are threats to Germany, German security, European security, and how should the country respond to it.
Germany is further reducing its reliance on the US by ramping up munitions production of its own. German industry is responding to the rise in state spending on defense. This company, Rheinmetall, is one of several shifting their focus from civil manufacture to military.
So spell them out for me. What are the capabilities that currently only the United States has that the European powers need to acquire in the next 3 to 4 years?
Well, we in Germany, we set a clear prioritized list. What we need is drones, what we need is deep precision strike, and also space capabilities have to come into this. So these are the most urgent needs in here. But like I said, we have put it on a prioritized list and we are working this and we are good on our way to do so.
Not long ago, all this would have alarmed Germany's neighbours. Not anymore, for the world has changed.
Let me ask you about events over the last few weeks. Iran, Israel, the United States. Do you think what's happening there makes the security situation in Germany and in Europe even more precarious?
I'm absolutely sure that we can't think in boxes anymore. So it's not the European theater and the near Middle East. We have to connect those dots. All those theaters are intertwined or interlinked. And what happens in one theater has impact on the other theater as well. This understanding has shaped, I think, very much also our military strategy.
Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said that Europe needs to acquire what he called operational independence from the United States within NATO. It is a measure of the breakdown of trust between Donald Trump's White House and many of the European allies. But what would European defense look like without the USA?
I doubt that we will have one country in Europe that can fill the footsteps of the US. It's very tempting to say, could Germany or France fulfill that role in the future? But that is not how Europeans cooperate, where we are always looking for compromise. There is also clearly a trust issue, but the role that the US has played in European defense has grown over decades, and the trust built up there has been built up over decades, and that will be difficult to fill those shoes overnight.
Germany's top soldier is keen to reassure his allies that democratic Germany seeks not to dominate, but to cooperate. After our interview was over, he told me he'd been humbled and puzzled by my last question to him, which was this.
You are probably the most important and the most powerful soldier in Europe in our day. Do you feel the burden of that?
I think I feel the responsibility every day. This responsibility is the responsibility for the forces I'm leading here in Germany. I'm one of the soldiers of the 182,000 soldiers in Germany, and I'm feeling this responsibility of that leadership which has to be provided. I'm very glad that I'm part of this leadership team in Germany, because together we will face this and we will cope with this challenge, definitely.
When NATO was founded, it was said that its purpose was to keep the Americans in, the Russians out, and the Germans down. That era is over. 8 decades after Germany's humiliation, it is back, rearmed, and at the heart of Europe's new power map.